So when Devon and I were younger, a lot less tech, and we both grew up wanting to be astronauts. And clearly, that didn't happen. Never mind. But our excitement for space has continued into our adult life. So you can imagine two space nerds getting really excited about the latest view from space of the planet that came from the Artemis 2 mission only earlier this month. And because it's Earth Day, 2026 today, we wanted to take a moment just to appreciate the planet that we live on and what it provides for us. Because at that distance, we don't see buildings, we don't see roads, and we don't see technology. What we see is nature. We see forests, we see oceans, and we see land. The things that sustain us and our life on Earth. So a question to you. If 99% of the Earth is now covered by nature, why have we historically spent so long focused on monitoring and understanding the 1% that we have built? Because as the climate is changing, we no longer have the luxury of ignoring that 99%. Those natural systems are becoming more extreme, more stressed, more unpredictable. And if we think about trying to build resilience into our cities, it's becoming increasingly important to understand how natural systems are working. And when we start, we realize that nature's telling us more than we ever thought. So we went looking for a place to begin. Video. Thank you.
And we started in a garden. Welcome to the Chelsea Flower Show, global stage for garden design, running for over 100 years. It's the Oscars of horticulture. For 5 days at the end of every May, over 160,000 people visit the show. And last year, we brought something a little bit different. We brought an intelligent garden. A beautiful garden, yes, but designed to help us observe how environmental conditions can change over time. If we want to understand how nature responds to pressure, we need somewhere to begin. This was our starting point. Created initially as a showcase of innovation and sustainability between Avanade and Microsoft, our garden has grown to be so much more. Do you know, I really love that walkthrough, and it shows the size and the scale of what we set out to achieve. Over 100 square meters of space, designed and built by landscape designers, architects, furniture makers, developers, technologists, scientists, and user experience designers. But one question I have, did you see any technology in that garden? Hopefully you didn't, because that was our intention. We go to gardens to escape technology, to relish in nature, and that was intentional. Most of us escape the tech. We don't want it to follow us around. But I can assure you that technology was actually everywhere. We had over 4,000 plants. We had 15 trees, 12 of which were tagged with IoT devices. And we had sensors in the air, measuring air quality. We had sensors in the water, sensors in the soil. And we were measuring everything from humidity, temperature, moisture, and we could even tell whether a tree was leaning or not. And all that data, all of that rich telemetry, we pulled up, and then we introduced AI to nature. But I can assure you we used it meaningfully, and we kept our models really tight. And we developed an app, of course, so that you could get an at-a-glance view of how your garden is doing and then what steps you can take to better look after your garden. It was not complicated, and in fact, it's very simple. So now not only can you hug a tree, but you can talk to one too. You can ask a tree how it's feeling, and it will tell you. Our app can pull in the weather. It can give predictive insight. And maybe there's a heat wave coming, so let's start watering little and often to help us get prepared. So come and experience a beautiful garden and use the app to see how it's really doing. Because actually, this is what we learned. 1 in 3 trees don't make it to their first year after planting. And 50% of the trees we plant don't make it to 10 years. And it's not because we don't care, and it's not because there's not investment. But when you can see early signals, something fundamentally shifts. Not perfect decisions, but earlier ones. Act now or wait. Water this week or replace a tree next year. A gentleman at the show actually said, I'm sorry it's a gentleman, but he actually said to me, I don't need your application. I can tell what to do when leaves start going brown on our trees. And we said, isn't that a bit reactive? Couldn't we be a bit more proactive and not let the tree go brown at all? Because most of the time, earlier action can mean smaller, cheaper, and sometimes often easier solutions. Because really, we're protecting something very valuable, a living system that was already working for that city quietly every day.
And that matters because globally, cities are starting to make significant investments in that living infrastructure that we're talking about. And that is to help offset the impact of climate change. Over $100 billion has been committed globally to urban greening projects, including here in Stockholm. And why? Because the benefits are real. We've all experienced that relief of finding a big tree to sit under on a hot, sunny day. Trees and grass provide us with cooler streets, they help reduce flooding impact, and they provide us with cleaner air. So that it's not just about a nice city, it's about a healthier city too. But when you invest on this sort of scale, the question isn't just about what to plant and where. It's also about how do we make sure that we can sustain that living ecosystem, and how can we make sure that it keeps functioning for us in the way that we have planned. Make sure it thrives under the increasing pressure. And that's where technology comes so important. In the past, it's been really hard to monitor those things. But now we can do it with sensors. We have the ability to use the low-cost sensors that Devon was talking about, IoT devices, cloud computing, and yes, small language models for AI. And that creates this digital intelligence. For example, you can see on the left here, we have a picture of a park, and on the right, we have how much stress the tree is under, whilst providing that shade to the ground. But that earlier awareness is really helping those earlier signals that we're seeing from nature. Because if we can understand how nature is working, then we can understand how to build greater resilience using that green infrastructure. And at the start, I asked why we've spent so much time instrumenting that 1% that we live in versus the 99% of nature that covers the planet. And because for a long time it was really hard to do, nature is inherently complicated. But now technology, including some of which has been developed by the women in this room, has taken that complexity away. It is changing what is possible. And in an era of increasing uncertainty because of climate change, we believe it's increasingly important to understand how nature works and how those living systems around us can survive and can support us in this era of increasing uncertainty. But the good news is, we've already had the signals from nature. They've been there all along. But now, we really do have the ability to listen.
So, if you would like to experience talking to a tree, you can do it yourself. If you just scan our QR code, we would love to show you our technology in action. Thank you so much.
Thank you.